Hey guys, hope everything is going well. Sorry I could not be here today, but like I said on Canvas, I am in the building, so know that I am always watching. Instead of having a lesson today or going through slides, we are going to have our second chalk talk. So we'll call this chalk talk number 2, and this would be a chapter 9 intro would be the title of this chalk talk. Gavin Smith, all I have to say is you are welcome. 2 chalk talks in 2 weeks. Anyway, moving on. What we are looking at today is a couple of things that have to do with square roots. Now, all of this stuff you have seen before or done before, but we're going to put some of it together now, and a lot of it's going to come back up in this chapter, so it's important to review before we look at chapter 9. Now, I guess I misspoke a little bit. I said all of this is square roots. The first part of the worksheet that you're going to do, I guess, is not square roots. It has to do with solving. But after that, we're going to deal with everything, or everything is going to deal with square roots. Now, when we're looking big picture at things today, you're going to watch this Edpuzzle. You are going to work through the Chapter 9 Introduction worksheet, and you'll have to go up and get that. And then you will correct that worksheet. I don't care if you work in pairs or small groups, just make sure the noise level is what it should be. The way that we're going to go through this chalk talk is that I'm just going to go through a couple of examples of what you'll see on the homework, and then you will be done with this Edpuzzle. So the first part of the homework will say simplify the expression b squared minus 4ac given the following values for a, b, and c. So it gives you this expression, and it gives you 6 problems that have an a, b, and a c value. All I'm looking for you to do is sub these values in for each variable. So our b value is 3 minus 4 times our a times our c. Now, one thing that I do want to have you do on this homework is make sure you're showing a bunch of work. I know that you could just plug all this into your calculator, but here's how I would like you to show work on this. I'd like you to square the number first, and then I want you to write what this simplified is. Now, one thing that people get confused with a lot of times when we look at an expression like this is they treat this as a positive 4. Remember, that minus sign is with the 4, so that is a negative 4 times 2, so that would give me negative 8. Then we have negative 8 times negative 4, so that would give me a positive 32. So your first step will be right here, your second step will be here, then your third step would be your answer of 41. So that's what I'm expecting on the first section. On the next section, it says solve the following quadratic equations, and it gives you 6 more quadratic equations, and they are all in this form right here. Here's the work that I'm looking for. We know that when we have something to the second power, the inverse of that is to square root. So if we have x squared equals 25, the inverse of something squared is to square root both sides. Now, I've mentioned it before, but I have not made a big point of this because we haven't focused too much on square roots. When we square root each side, we need to make sure that we put a plus and minus sign in front of the side with the number, the side we're bringing the square root to. And here's why. Because we are solving for x. So if we think about x squared equals 25, well, let's come back to this. Let's finish solving first. Sorry, rewind. Zoop. We need to make sure we put our plus and minus sign on both sides. So now we have x equals plus or minus. Now we know the square root of 25 is 5. That means we would have 2 answers, one that is positive 5 and one that is negative 5. Now back to here. The reason that we need to put that plus and minus sign is because when we are finding what the solutions are for x, we could put positive 5 in, and we know that would give 25. But we also could put negative 5, and negative 5 squared is 25. So we need to make sure when we're solving that we reflect that there could be a positive and a negative answer there. So here's the steps that I would expect. I'd want to first see this, I'd want to see this, and I'd want to see this. This could be your final answer. If you leave your answer like this, that's fine. If you want to write it as 2 separate, I'm good with that too. but that is completely up to you. On the back side of that worksheet, you'll see questions that look like this number 3 right here. Now, things look a little bit more complicated, but our process is still the same if we were solving, even if we were solving something that looked like this. If I said to solve something that looked like this, you would know that you need to get x by itself in order to solve. It's the same idea here. We need to work to get x by itself. So we start by adding 9 to both sides. And then we have 9x squared equals 9. Then we would divide by 9. Now this is exactly in the form that we saw earlier. X squared equals a number. That's exactly this type of form. So now we would go and square root both sides. And we can't forget our what? Think about it. We can't forget the plus and minus in front of the square root. So the square root of 1 is just 1. So x equals plus or minus 1. Positive 1 and negative 1. Again, the steps I'd expect to see, you don't necessarily have to show this right here or have to show this right here, that plus and plus, but I would at least expect to see something like this. 9x squared equals 9, x squared equals 1, x equals plus or minus root 1, x equals plus or minus 1. This would be the appropriate work. I know there's not a ton of room on the back page, but this would be the appropriate work for that. Last type of problem. Now this looks the exact same, right? We have an x squared and there's some other numbers there. We need to get x by itself, but things will look a little different in our answer, so that's why I'm going through this. First we would add 8 and add 8. That would give me 81 x squared equals 64. Then we would divide by 81, divide by 81. Now we can't simplify this fraction at all, but we can still go ahead and square root both sides. This is kind of like what we've done in some of those story problems, so we are a little familiar with this, but we would square root both sides. Can't forget our plus and minus. Now, with our square root rules, we learned this in chapter 6. Since we have a fraction under the square root, we are allowed to square root the top and square root the bottom. Now 64 and 81 are perfect squares, so we can continue to simplify. We would have plus or minus 64 square root is 8, the square root of 81 is 9. So our answer would be positive 8/9 and negative 8/9. So if they have a fraction, that's how I would like you to handle it. This is all you're doing for the homework today. You'll finish up this video, finish that page, get it corrected, and then you'll be done. Again, please use that time wisely if you have extra time at the end of class. If you have any questions, talk with each other, ask other people around. Mr. Mraz might be able to help you as well. But if I don't see you, have an awesome, awesome spring break. You know that, of course, I will miss every single one of you for the full week that we are gone. All right. Have a good one, guys.